Thank you. After a difficult year of revolving closures, our children need a real education recovery that makes sure no students fall between the cracks. That means providing students with mental health support, special education supports, and more individual focus in class. Our education workers need to be supported, and we need to make sure that in-person learning is here to stay. A real education recovery will help drive a strong economic recovery for decades to come. Every dollar we invest in education returns $1.30 to the community. That means investing in education now is investing in a strong economy tomorrow. I'm excited to welcome the leader of the Ontario Liberal Party, Stephen Del Duca, to discuss our education recovery plan. Stephen, I'll pass it on to you.
Well, good morning, and thanks so much, Linda, for your introduction and for giving me the chance to be with you, albeit virtually in lovely Windsor. I am very much looking forward to being, in the not too distant future, back out on the road when it is safe and responsible to do so, and being back in Windsor to see you and the rest of the Ontario Liberal team in the Windsor-Essex area. And I have to say, I'm absolutely thrilled that Linda made the decision to step forward and to be the Ontario Liberal Party standard bearer and candidate in lovely Windsor West. I know how hard she and her team are already working. And even more importantly, I know that come June 2nd of next year, Linda will be elected and she'll make an extraordinary champion for Windsor West and for the entire region at Queen's Park. And I'm really looking forward to having the chance to work closely, Linda, with you and your team for many, many years to come. And in her introduction, Linda did hit the nail right on the head. There is so much work that we need to do here in Ontario, both in Windsor and right across this province as it relates to recovering and rebuilding the publicly funded education system that we have here in Ontario. Now, I'm talking not just as a politician today, I'm also talking as a dad. My daughters, the daughters I'm raising with my wife here in York Region, where we live, are in grade 8 and in grade 4. And like thousands and thousands of moms and dads across Ontario, we've experienced a really tough 15, 16 months now. Our kids have experienced it. Frontline education workers have experienced it. It's been so tough with the whipsaw effect of closures and not having clear information coming from the province, seeing no real effort and no real investment made by Doug Ford and his team to make sure that our kids were set up or are set up for success. I don't want the kind of school year that my daughters just went through to ever be repeated again, not for them and not for the 2 million kids who attend publicly funded schools right across this province of ours. And that's why, working closely with Linda and the rest of our candidate team, and also, by the way, reaching out and consulting with women and men who represent those who work on the front lines of education, the women and men who understand what it takes to make safe and healthy classrooms, what kind of instruction you need, what kind of support you need, what kind of testing and personal protective equipment you need. All of that work has gone into the Ontario Liberal Plan for Education Recovery. That's thoughtful, it's comprehensive, there's lots of details in it. And today, I just want to highlight a few that I think are particularly important for this coming September and for beyond. So first of all, as I mentioned a second ago, I've had the honor over the past now more than a year to engage in about 7 different virtual consultations with education partners. And on each of those calls, there's been anywhere from 50 to 60 women and men. I'm talking about people who represent principals, custodians, school bus drivers, teachers, early childhood educators, administrative staff, the entire education ecosystem that we have here in Ontario. And as an opposition leader, I've reached out to them because I've wanted to hear from them. I've wanted their guidance. I've wanted their advice. Here's the really sad thing to consider. Over that same period of time, those same women and men, the individuals who understand best what's happening on the ground in Ontario schools, have not had the chance to have that kind of consultation or even conversation with Doug Ford or his education minister. I think that's completely unacceptable. And so the first thing, something that's so important in making sure September is a success for all of us, is that we need a proper consultation. We need to make sure that the partnership that needs to exist between education workers and the rest of the individuals who work in that education ecosystem and the government is actually performing really, really well. It's the first thing I'd be doing if I was premier right now, and it's something Doug Ford should be doing this very moment. Secondly, with only a couple of days left in the school year, I think, as a dad, one of the most important things that we should all want for our kids over July and August is that they just get a chance to be kids again. This past year has been so grueling and so difficult. We've seen mental health challenges and isolation and all of that, all of what's come with this pandemic, which was always going to be a tough situation, made dramatically worse by the lack of effort and lack of investment from Doug Ford. I want our kids this summer to just be kids again. I want them to get out and access summer programming, summer recreation camps, whatever might be available on a community by community basis. But here's the thing. In Windsor and right across Ontario, there are tens of thousands of families that don't have access to those programs or can't afford to send their kids to those programs. So the Ontario Liberal Plan for Education Recovery has set aside $100 million to help make sure that low-income and moderate income families have access and can afford to send their kids to summer programming. Again, so the kids get some fresh air, so they get to play, so they see their friends, they interact socially, they're kids again, in order to prepare for what's coming in September. Next, we all know that class sizes being capped at reasonable amounts actually leads to student success. And so in this plan, the Ontario Liberal Plan for Education Recovery, we're calling for a hard cap on class sizes of 20 right across the board. This means that our students, including my own daughters, will have the chance to get the kind of in-person instruction from their teachers and from the rest who work in our schools right across Ontario. And we know when that level of attention is paid to our kids, when they have that access to incredible instruction, that they're able to excel. And that's why we're calling for a hard cap of 20 on class sizes across the province. We also know, and this is the next point that I want to talk about for a quick second, that far too many of Ontario's schools are not physically in a state of good repair. Well, I don't think that's good enough in the year 2021 or beyond. And so that's why I'm calling on the government over the next 2 months to invest or match what the federal government came forward, $525 million to help make sure that the air quality and the ventilation in our schools in Windsor and beyond are actually at an optimal level. That will help give moms and dads, students, teachers, and others that peace of mind that they need to know that the school, the physical school environment, is safe and healthy for everyone who's in the school. Next, I want to talk about special education and mental health. In the Ontario Liberal Plan for Education Recovery, we've set aside an investment that would see 5,000 new special education professionals be brought on board and hired to be deployed out to the schools, because we know that there are tens of thousands of kids in Ontario's publicly funded schools who have special needs, who have unique needs. They were falling behind before the pandemic because Doug Ford cut special education. During the pandemic, for many of them, far too many of them, the problem, which was tough, again, has gotten dramatically worse. With 5,000 new special education professionals, that will amount to more than one new additional special education professional per school in this province. And again, I think that helps set all of our kids, regardless of their needs, regardless of their unique situation, up for success. On the mental health side, there is no doubt about the fact that for a long time to come after this pandemic, because of how tough it's been for all of us, there will be a significant mental health challenge right across Ontario society. And our kids are not immune to this. In fact, they've been hit pretty hard. So in our plan, the Ontario Liberal Plan for Education Recovery, we're calling for a hiring of 1,000 additional mental health professionals, again, to be deployed out to our schools. So those children across this province that are facing that mental health challenge will have the support and the counseling they need in order to be able to perform and excel in the school setting. All of this is tied together with a fundamental overarching philosophical statement, I guess, that I want to make. And that's about this notion of in-person learning versus virtual. Now, we all know that because of the way the pandemic unfolded over the past year, there's been a requirement, obviously, when schools are closed to provide various forms of virtual or online learning. Some kids have done okay with it. Far too many other children have not. I just want to say very clearly on the record, I am telling you, and I believe this with everything, every ounce of my being, as a dad especially, there will never be anything better for our kids, my daughters and your kids as well, than in-person learning, where the child is in a physical classroom, where the classroom is safe and healthy, where the class sizes are relatively manageable and small, and where a motivated, respected, and energetic educator and the rest of the support staff that work in that school are there providing direct instruction to our kids. So everything that's in our plan is designed to give moms and dads, students, teachers, and others the peace of mind that they need so that we can get our kids back to school come September. I say that recognizing that in Ontario, there will no doubt still be some moms and dads who are anxious this coming September about sending their kids back in person. And that's understandable for a couple of reasons. Number one, we know that in Ontario, kids under 12 will not have had access to any vaccines by September. We also know that there are many kids and many families that have individuals that have underlying health concerns. And so in our plan, we do preserve an option, a time-limited option for this year and this year only, because we're not all the way through the pandemic just yet, to give moms and dads a virtual option. But once we get through this pandemic, and fortunately, it seems like we are so much closer to the end of this than we are the beginning of it, this terrible, terrible ordeal that's been so tough on so many, this is a time-limited option, because once we're through this pandemic, I want our kids back in school. I want moms and dads to have that peace of mind. I want our schools to be, locations or centers of excellence that set our kids up for success, set our economy up for success, set our province up for success. This is good for all of us. This is the kind of thoughtful, comprehensive plan that we need in Ontario urgently. I'm really proud of this one, and I'm really looking forward to whatever questions you might have. Thank you so much.